Most remodelers don't know how much they can spend to acquire a customer, and this makes budgeting super problematic. So let's break it down in today's video. Hey, I'm Spencer Powell, and if you don't know me, I'm the CEO over at Builder Funnel. Our marketing agency has helped our clients generate well over $150 million in remodeling and custom home projects. This channel, Builder Funnel TV, is where we share what's worked for us and for our clients in hopes that it helps you grow as well. Let's dive into today's topic of how much can you spend to acquire a customer. And before we get to that, we need to uncover a few other pieces of information. So let's break it down. Let's use an example of a $3 million remodeling company. So we need to know our revenue. So in this case, it's going to be $3 million. And then we also need to know our gross profit on our projects. So let's just use 30% as an example. So you've got a $3 million business, and now you're at a 30% gross profit. Next, we need to know our average job size. So for this example, let's just use 100 grand for some easy math. And then we also need to know our monthly overhead. So let's use 60 grand a month for our overhead number. So now we have those four other pieces of information, and now we're going to roll it up. So we've got 3 million in sales, and we've got 900,000 in gross profit. Again, that's your 30% number. And then you've got 720,000 in overhead. That's the 60,000 a month times 12 months. And so now you're left with 180,000 in net profit. Okay, so that's our starting point. We need to know those pieces of information. So now we're going to run a scenario and say, hey, this is a $3 million business trying to grow to 3.5. So we want to add $500,000 in revenue. So there are a couple of other things that we need to look at here too. And I feel like these are the things that not everyone is talking about when it comes to growing this type of a business, which is a project-based business that doesn't have a lot of recurring revenue. Meaning if somebody does a kitchen remodel with you this year, they're very unlikely to do a kitchen remodel next year. Maybe they'll do another project next year, but it's not like somebody is coming back on a every 24 months or even every 3 years or 5-year cycle. Yes, you get some repeat clients, but every year you need to go and resell work. So let's talk about growing to 3.5 and then talking about our overhead number. So the question is, can you get to 3.5 with your existing overhead structure? So if the answer is yes, that means, hey, I've got the team, the capacity to grow another $500,000. So that means every dollar that I land above 3 million, all of my gross profit actually becomes net profit. So you're still going to have all of your job costs and everything, but then if you sell another 100 grand and you're left with 30 grand gross profit, that also drops straight to the bottom line because you didn't have to expand your overhead to get that. So that's important to note. If you can't and you are going to make the leap and you say, hey, I'm really at my max capacity at 3 million, and to get to 3.5, I'm going to need some other core team members on the team. Maybe you need another on-staff project manager or a site supervisor or somebody like that. And then really to maximize them, you're actually going to have to blow past 3.5 million. You might need to get to 4 million or 4.2 or something like that. That is a different scenario. So it's important to figure out which bucket you're in. Are you a growing business that is not at capacity for your current overhead structure? Or are you a growing business that is at capacity and you're trying to make one of those leaps through one of those revenue levels? So super important. Because in the first scenario, let's just say you do have capacity. You can go from 3 to 3.5 with the existing team that you have. Then you might look at that and say, okay, well, if I land another $100,000, then $30,000, my gross profit, again, 30% drops to the bottom line. Then from a marketing perspective, you might say, well, gosh, I can spend 20 grand or 25 grand. You would only net out another 5 in that scenario. And so you may say, well, that's not worth it. I could spend that much, but it's really not worth the extra effort to do a whole nother project. And so you'll have to determine that number as it makes sense for you. But knowing that anything above that level from 3 million to 3.5, that gross profit is basically net profit, then you can get a lot more aggressive with your marketing. However, on the flip side, if you're in that spot where you're saying, gosh, I've got to ramp up my overhead, I need to go from, I was at 60 grand a month, and now I need to take that to 70 grand a month, then you know that your net profit just got squeezed a little bit. And so you may actually be looking at that and going, gosh, I really can spend a lot less to acquire a customer, but I actually need a lot more customers because I've got this new person coming on and I need to fill them up. So I need to actually push through to get to closer to 4 million for it to justify the additional marketing spend and this person that I need to keep full, basically. So everyone wants to talk about growth and growing aggressively and generating more leads, but I think you really have to take a hard look at where your company is on the growth curve and where you are in terms of capacity. Because if you have excess capacity, then you can be a lot more aggressive in terms of taking on extra work, spending to get that work, knowing that, hey, if you're already profitable, and then anything up to capacity, that's where the real profit comes, is making sure you're operating at full strength. And so doing anything you can to acquire those customers and say, hey, I just want to be operating at full capacity. And if you're not, then you may say, gosh, we're at one of these leap moments and I'm going to have to make a couple of big investments in both team and my marketing and sales to make sure I can push through and keep my profitability. Otherwise, you might have a year or two there where you're breaking even because you brought somebody on and then your revenue doesn't go up a whole ton, and so you're basically just absorbing the overhead of that new hire that you made. So as you're growing your business, it's really important to figure out what can you spend to acquire a customer, and it involves checking those first 4 numbers first and then evaluating where you are on the growth curve. Hopefully this helps, and we'll see you next time here on Builder Funnel TV.